I'm Russ with D6 Mafia, and this is our review of the Pathfinder Adventure Card Game. Paizo Publishing did a really great job of taking a pen and paper RPG and turning it into a deck building card game. I'm a big fan of games like Hero Quest and Descent, board games that take pen and paper RPGs and simplify the rules down into a board game. This game does a great job of turning that into a deck building card game. Now, we've played other deck building card games, Legendary, Trains, Dominion. Those games start with a generic deck, much like Pathfinder, but at the end of the game, you break down your deck back into its generic form. What makes Pathfinder different is that you keep your deck from session to session and through adventure to adventure, all the way through what will eventually be 6 adventure deck packs. We think that's awesome. It kind of sucks to take apart your deck at the end of every game, but this one lets you keep it as you're collecting items, weapons, spells, better blessings. These all go into your deck so that next time on the next session, you have a little bit better chance of surviving. When we opened the box, we were really surprised to find out how much empty space is in there, which we actually think is very forward-thinking, since there's room in it for all the adventure decks. There's going to be 6 of them in total. They fit here. Room for the character add-on here. There's a spot for dice right here, which will be used when the characters roll to fight monsters or collect items based on their ability scores. Places for the character decks, and then there's spots all in here with dividers, so you can have your armor, your weapons, items, spells, blessings, location cards, scenarios, and the various character decks that aren't being used. So by the end, everything is contained in one space. We wish more game publishers would think ahead like this on their expansions. So we've got the first scenario of the first adventure set up on the table. The first adventure deck is Burnt Offerings. As the Burnt Offerings card, it has a little bit of a plot and backstory to the adventure. And then the other side, it shows the different scenarios that make up this adventure. The first one is Attack on Sand Point. So we get the Attack on Sand Point card. It gives a little bit more of a plot that's happening with the Attack on Sand Point, as well as the various locations that will be part of the adventure, which is based on the number of players. We've set up ours for 3 players. So it includes the Town Square, Swallowtail Festival, City Gate, Sandpoint Cathedral, and the Rusty Dragon. Once all the locations are placed, you use their cards to determine what will be placed in each of their location decks. We're going to use the City Gate as an example. This card, we'll just go over it. There's a little bit of flavor text on the back, so you kind of know what's up at the City Gate. And then on the other side are the cards that will make up the random location deck for City Gate. This particular one has 2 monsters, 1 barrier, 2 weapons, 0 spells, 0 armor, 2 items, 2 allies, and 0 blessings. So those cards are chosen randomly and in secret and are shuffled together to create the location for the City Gate. In addition to the cards dictated by the location, 1 random henchman, mini-boss, or main boss will be shuffled in to each of the location decks. These are very important because this is how you close locations. Whenever a henchman or a mini-boss is encountered and defeated, the location is closed. Whenever the main boss is defeated, they attempt to run to an open location. If there are no more open locations, the main boss is defeated. In addition, there is a timer built into the game in the form of the blessing deck. At the beginning of each player's turn, the player draws a card from the blessing deck and attempts to acquire it into their hand. Then the player may go on to either move into a different location or they may do an explore action. Explore action means they encounter the top card of whichever location they're at. At the City Gate, it happens to be a mace. If it had been a monster, they would have to fight the monster. In this case, it's an item, so they must attempt to pick it up. They can do that by rolling the appropriate score. In this case, it's strength, so they would roll whatever dice represents their strength and attempt to achieve that number or higher, and then they may take the item into their hand. Take a look at the character decks. We're going to use Lem, the Bard. That's the character I played. This is his token card. On one side, you got a picture. This can be used to represent your character as you move from location to location. And on the other side, you've got a little bit of a backstory for each character. Next, you've got essentially his character sheet cards. This has his different abilities, as well as places to put feats and upgrades. This shows his stats. So you have dice, so it's D4, D8, representing his different skills and abilities, which you use to acquire weapons and fight monsters, get spells, get blessings. Very important is the character deck list on those side of the card. It shows you what is in your starting deck and what your deck must be pared down to at the end of each game, which we're going to go over. So Lem's starting deck has 1 weapon, 4 spells, no armor, 2 items, 3 allies, and 5 blessings. So this is your starting deck, and I have mine right here. As you go through the game, you're going to be picking up items, you'll be acquiring spells, and so your deck will be growing. But by the end of the game, you must pare it back down to these starting numbers. However, as you continue to play through adventures, you're going to possibly pick up some feats that'll let you to have, maybe a suit of armor, maybe another weapon, but you get to decide that for yourself as you build your own character. One of the great things about this game is the damage and the healing mechanic. So you have your hand of cards. As you take damage, you discard those cards. Now certain cards, like spells and different things, also must be discarded as you use them. So essentially you're taking damage, because if your deck ever runs out of cards and you're forced to draw, your character's dead. In this game, death is permanent. However, healing spells like cure or different items like wands of minor healing, those put cards back into your deck. If you couldn't tell, we really love the Pathfinder Adventure Card Game. We can't wait for all the adventure decks to come out so we can go through the whole thing with our current characters, as well as start all over with the character add-on pack, which comes with new characters and new items, and start all over with a different configuration and go through the whole thing all over again. There are a couple things, issues that we came up with. We think the setup time is a little bit long for how long the scenarios are. It does take a while to build each location deck, going around one at a time. The other problem is if you're really a big fan of the storylines in RPGs, while it does translate the mechanics extremely well with the way the damage is done, the way that you heal and collect items and fight monsters, you're a little bit kind of set on the rails as far as the story is concerned. You don't really have much of a story. There's no storyteller, so where's it going to come from? It's going to come from about half a card's worth of backstory or flavor text on the characters, the locations, in the adventures. But they do try and make up for it. There is some flavor on the bosses, the mini bosses. All those are named, so they do what they can, and we appreciate that. On the flip side, however, the replay value is up because you're not really hearing the same story over and over because, well, you might not really care about the story because it's only about that big. So if you want to go through again with a different group of characters, maybe try this group with 2 healers. Oh, no healers. Oh, we want all melee. Just all spellcasters. Switch it up and try it again. We think the replay value of it is great. What we also think they nailed is the challenge level. Our party contains a bard, and I'm rolling some healing spells. We also have a cleric. Going through with 2 healers, we still have characters that almost die. They're down to no cards in their deck. If they take 1 damage, they would have died on several scenarios. We have come down to the last card or last couple of cards in the blessing deck before we defeated the boss. I mean, we've never lost, but we have nearly lost almost every time. I think there might have been one scenario where we actually just breezed through it and killed it outright. So we think they just absolutely nailed the challenge level. There's always been that danger of like, oh, we're not going to make it in time. Oh my God, the sorcerer is about to die. Somebody go save him. Well, that about concludes our review of the Pathfinder Adventure Card Game. We highly, highly recommend this. We think you get a lot of bang for your buck. The adventure packs are only $12, $15. So jump right in and enjoy.